Barcelona and scores! Barca ahead inside with a hat-trick for Rafinha!
His journey from being written off to becoming one of La Liga's top players is spectacular. And while a change in manager played a part, two things stand out that truly turned his season around: determination and tactical brilliance. But how?
Rafinha, man of the match, and anyone who's seen him play this season, Jurgen, it's no surprise considering how his form has turned around.
Determination, you might ask. Well, he grew up in Porto Alegre in Brazil, in a neighborhood where making it to the top wasn't exactly easy. Imagine this, a kid with massive dreams but barely enough money for boots. Rafinha didn't have it handed to him. He had to fight for everything. Before Leeds or Barcelona, he was grinding in Brazil, then moved to Portugal with Vitória Guimarães. After a solid run at Sporting CP and catching some attention in France with Rennes, Leeds United came knocking. And this is where Rafinha became a name everyone had to know. Marcelo Bielsa, Leeds' eccentric, high-energy manager, brought him in and wow, did Rafinha fit Bielsa's system like a glove. Leeds under Bielsa was all about non-stop pressing, intense energy and lightning-fast transitions. Basically, football at 100 miles an hour. And Rafinha, he was perfect for it. Bielsa gave him the freedom to roam that right wing, cutting inside with his magical left foot and creating chaos for defenders. It wasn't just the flashy dribbling or the nutmegs, though there were plenty of those. It was his game-changing ability. He could pick out a killer pass, curl in a beauty from outside the box, and still had the work rate to track back and defend. In Bielsa's system, Rafinha was a star, contributing goals, assists, and flair. He didn't just bring skill, he brought belief. Leeds were newly promoted, but with Rafinha pulling the strings in attack, they looked fearless. He scored key goals, like that stunning free kick against Southampton, and was constantly involved in creating chances. Leeds fans fell in love with his passion and fight because he played every game like it was personal. And honestly, it probably was considering where he came from. Leeds adored him, and the Premier League took notice. Before long, the biggest clubs in Europe were keeping an eye on him, and it wasn't too long before one of the biggest, Barcelona, came calling. But that chapter, well, that's a whole different story. So Rafinha moves to Barcelona. This sounds like a dream for him, right? I mean, come on. Every Brazilian kid grows up dreaming of wearing that famous Barca shirt, following in the footsteps of legends like Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, and Neymar. Yeah, no pressure. But for Rafinha, it wasn't exactly the fairy tale beginning we all expected. His first season? Well, let's just say it wasn't all smooth sailing. He came in with a lot of hype, but transitioning to Barca's style wasn't as easy as everyone thought. And to make things more complicated, Rafinha had to deal with not one, not two, but three different coaches. First, it was Ronald Koeman, then Sergi Barjuan, and eventually Xavi. Under Koeman, things didn't click. He was played out of position at times, which, let's be honest, is a nightmare for any player. Koeman's tactical setup didn't fully understand how to use Rafinha's pace, flair, and creativity. Instead of being that free-flowing winger we saw at Leeds, he looked a bit lost, like a Ferrari stuck in traffic. Then came Xavi. Now, here's the thing. Xavi knew Rafinha had talent, but at first, even he didn't quite know where to put him. Was he a right winger? An attacking midfielder? There was this period of tactical confusion where it felt like no one, Rafinha included, was quite sure where he fit in the team. Add to that some injuries and Barca's general instability after Messi left, and it was a bit of a mess. Inconsistent form, injuries, and a team in transition. Yeah, it wasn't easy. For a while, it looked like maybe Rafinha had bitten off more than he could chew at Barcelona. Could he replicate the magic of his Leeds days on a bigger stage? There were serious doubts, but just when things started looking really bleak, that's when the tide began to turn. Rafinha's resilience started showing. Little by little, he found his footing at the Camp Nou. It was late in last season that he began to show how good he was. Xavi, being a Barca legend himself, knew that Rafinha had great talent, and he wasn't about to let Rafinha go to waste. One of Xavi's key moves was shifting Rafinha to the left wing, and that's where he truly thrived. Hugging that left touchline, he could cut inside onto his right foot sometimes, and suddenly he was back to doing what he did best, taking on defenders, delivering pinpoint crosses, and curling in those beautiful long-range shots. The change in position was like flipping a switch. Rafinha looked like a different player. By the end of the season, you could see it. Rafinha's confidence was back. He was more decisive, more dangerous, and more involved in Barcelona's attack. It wasn't just his goals or assists, it was the way he played with freedom again. the way he fought for every ball, and how he took on challenges like he had something to prove. He did have something to prove, and he was doing it. He brought back the Rafinha we knew at Leeds, and it was electric to see him. But what we did not know was that this was not a purple patch, but a beginning of a new player. Well, then Hansi Flick came in and he took him to the next level. But why has he changed? And what has Hansi Flick done to change him? First off, Flick has given Rafinha the freedom to roam, unlike Xavi, who had a strict way of playing and enforced rigid positioning. Flick's style is much more fluid. This flexibility allows Rafinha to explore the pitch more and find those sweet spots where he can make a real impact. He's no longer just a player stuck to one side. He's free to create chaos wherever he sees it. Secondly, Hansi's attacking setup is designed to score more goals, which has been a massive boost for Rafinha. Flick emphasizes a high-octane style that puts more pressure on the opposition's defensive line. This means that there's a constant push for players to run behind defenses, and Rafinha faced significant challenges because his 1v1 ability was non-existent when teams parked the bus against Barcelona. Xavi's system, Rafinha was often asked to be something he just wasn't. Xavi was right that Rafinha is a winger, but tactically, he was flawed in how he utilized him. It's like comparing Rafinha to Mahrez. While they both have flair, even Pep doesn't use Mahrez against low blocks. That was more Bernardo Silva's role. Xavi struggled to use Rafinha effectively as a winger for similar reasons. Hansi Flick noticed this, and that is why his tactics fit Rafinha so well, because he does not have to do that much on the side. Rafinha also said that last season, he found himself doing a lot of defending, which, let's be real, isn't his thing. Rafinha also talked about how taking a break over the summer was a game changer. It gave him a chance to clear his head, recharge, and come back to Catalonia with a fresh perspective. He said, "I think there's fresh air in the team." He also pointed out how when a new coach comes in, everything changes. There's this sense of renewal, and that vibe seems to have clicked with the squad. He emphasized how the team came back focused and ready to deliver what Flick wanted from them. And honestly, he shows. Barcelona has been smashing it, with 9 wins out of 9 in La Liga this season, which is no small feat, and this has led people saying, is Rafinha the next Neymar? Now with 9 goals and 8 assists in just 11 games this season, you can see why people might jump to that conclusion. Those stats are pretty eye-catching, and anytime you've got a Brazilian winger putting up those kinds of numbers at Barcelona, Neymar comparisons are bound to happen. But let's be real for a second, Rafinha doesn't play like Neymar. Sure, they both bring that Brazilian flair, but their styles couldn't be more different. Neymar is all about creativity, flair, and pure magic. He's a kind of player who can weave through defenders in tight spaces, use his insane Neymar thrives when the ball's at his feet, dazzling the crowd and making defenders look silly. He'll break through low blocks, pull off ridiculous passes, and score some of the most outrageous goals. Rafinha, on the other hand, is more direct. He's not about taking on defenders one-on-one like Neymar. Instead, his game is built around exploiting space and using his speed. He's constantly looking to make runs behind the defense, positioning himself to create opportunities in open play. While Neymar's doing step-overs and elastico, Rafinha is flying past defenders or cutting inside to get a shot off. He's a winger who loves to run into space and work with the ball on the move, rather than rely on pure skill to dance around opposition players. So yeah, while people might throw around those comparisons, it's more about the numbers than the actual style of play. If we're talking about a Neymar-esque figure in the current Barcelona squad, that would be Lamine Yamal. Lamal's got that flashy creativity. He can operate in tight spaces. But if we're comparing Rafinha to someone else, I'd say he's more of a Serge Gnabry type of player. Think about it. Both players have this insane, high-energy style that's focused on quick attacks and exploiting space. Gnabry isn't about flashy dribbling or intricate footwork either. He's more about positioning himself well, making clever runs behind defenders, and being super efficient when he gets into dangerous areas. That's where the real similarities with Rafinha lies. They're both players who thrive in a system that value pace, positioning, and quick transitions. Gnabry has become a key player at Bayern Munich. Not because he's beating defenders with skill, but because he's smart, adaptable, and can play across multiple positions in attack. He knows where to be, how to time his runs, and when to pull the trigger, which is what makes him such a dangerous player. Rafinha is showing a lot of that same potential, especially under Flick's system at Barcelona, where he's being given more freedom to roam and attack. What's helping Rafinha this season is Hansi Flick's tactical shift. Unlike Xavi, who had a much stricter system with more rigid positioning, Flick has allowed Rafinha to roam and play closer to goal, which plays to his strengths. Flick's emphasis on quick, direct attacks and exploiting space has been a real game changer for Rafinha's form. It's the kind of football where Rafinha's speed, positioning and ability to run behind the defense can really shine. Flick's style puts more emphasis on high-energy runs behind the opposition's defensive line, something that Rafinha excels at. This isn't the kind of game where you need to beat defenders with 1v1 dribbling, which, let's be honest, has never been Rafinha's strongest suit. Instead, it's all about being smart, getting into the right areas, and taking advantage of the space left by the opposition. Rafinha's been tailor-made for this style. He's got the pace, the aggression, and the instinct to thrive in these situations. A completely different player. He's become a much more dangerous attacking threat because he's playing to his strengths. If you ask me, Rafinha's ceiling is definitely at the level of a player like Gnabry.
I could talk all day about Mo Salah. What an incredible footballer, and what an important footballer. And I don't use that word lightly. I don't use that word for many footballers in the Premier League, but Mo Salah is so important, not just in terms of what he does on the pitch, but what he represents off the pitch as well.
At 32, it's almost as if he's aging backwards. Impressive performances in the current season. Already the club's top scorer. But when it gets down to it, just how good is Mohamed Salah? For one thing, he's been one of the most consistent performers ever since he got to the club, after his record-breaking 2017-18 season, during which he broke the then Premier League record for the most goals in a season with 32. Salah's next challenge was to see if he could actually keep up with his goal-scoring rate, and it's safe to say he's done it over the past 6 years. He hasn't gone lower than the 20-goal mark in all competitions for Liverpool ever since. It's important to note that he's a winger. Putting up this kind of numbers consistently says a lot. That's special. Still on the numbers he's put up, ever since he's been in England, he's made the Premier League his own. We're talking about a guy with 3 Premier League Golden Boots in the 6 seasons he's been at the club. That's on average, finishing as the top scorer in the Premier League for 1 in every 2 seasons he's been at the club. We'll get back to the numbers in a bit, but for a player like Salah, it hasn't just been about the stat test alone. Watching him play has been something else.
You know, he makes a lot of these goals himself. I'm a massive fan of his. He scores big goals in big football matches, and I'd be shocked if he didn't score tomorrow. I'd be shocked.
Might just hold the line there a bit. Away from the stat test, Salah has become more, and that has to be the biggest transformation this season.
I think we play kind of different football now. The manager now wants to control the ball all the time. With Jurgen, sometimes we just go counter press and just try to attack them all the time in their half.
Like he said, under Arne Slot, the Liverpool team is different this season. In previous times under Klopp, they used to be a team known for direct attacking football, all-out attack. However, under Slot now, they want to keep the ball and control the game, which means they'll slow the tempo and try to keep possession of the ball more. And in turn, that means they need creative players making things happen for the team. Salah's always been creative down that right flank for Liverpool, something that has gone largely unnoticed for large parts of his career.
Salah sometimes is going on the outside of his fullback. You see these grey dots here coming back away from goal, but the majority of Salah's crosses are going towards this back post.
But this season, however, he's had to step it up. As the clip shows, Liverpool have a game plan when it comes to finding players in specific positions across the pitch, and it seems it's all coming down from Salah's angle. As Luis Diaz's goal against Manchester United shows as well, an efficient crosser of the ball, and also has the ability to find teammates in dangerous positions too. Another impressive thing about Salah's game. Despite being a winger, he doesn't exactly rely on his teammates to score goals. If he has to, he can create them himself. This stunner against City in 2021, to be able to pull this off against a defense like City's, a team like that, it's ridiculous, and it sums up the guy. He'd take on anyone and beat them if he had to. I bet Lisandro Martinez still has nightmares from Salah turning him in and out in 2023. Mohamed Salah is the definition of a big game player. He doesn't have to play well to score big goals in big games. And more often than not, when the moment comes against the big teams, Salah's there to pounce and finish it. The numbers aren't lying. He's scored 44 goals in the Premier League against the big 6 teams in his career. This is beyond special. It's incredible. It's almost as if he loves this fixture more than anyone else. He's become Manchester United's boogeyman in recent years. In the Premier League, Salah has the most goal involvements against Liverpool's northwest rivals with 18. He's made Old Trafford his second home too. For a visiting player, the 6 goals he's scored is more than anyone else has at United Stadium. This season he's continued his impressive streak. I mean, yeah, we could talk and give the praise to Arne Slot for the way he'd set up the team and the tactics around them. But ultimately, it's down to the players on the pitch, and in that regard, in the big matches they've played this season, Salah has been key. a goal and an assist versus Chelsea to win it 2-1, and in perhaps the biggest test of the season for Liverpool so far, away at last season's runners-up Arsenal, Salah was clutch. Helped take a point back to Anfield with this goal. He's become the guy for Liverpool's fans to bank on in big games and high-pressure situations because more often than not, he always delivers. With Salah, consistency is the word. I mean, when you think about it, since the period he's been at Liverpool in 2017, he's managed to keep very similar levels at the top of the game. If we're being honest, in terms of performance and numbers, the only right winger who could match up to him in that position would be Messi, and he doesn't even play in Europe anymore. Looking at the numbers here again, and it's ridiculous. 162 goals. I mean, we're talking about a guy who only came into the league in 2017, a guy who was once labelled as a flop at Chelsea, especially with stuff like this. It's safe to say he's morphed into a beast since. A Puskas Award winner, 5th in the Ballon d'Or Awards in 2018, multiple Premier League Golden Boots, a PFA Player of the Year award winner, made both the UEFA Team of the Year and Premier League Team of the Season. Salah has been dropping the performances season after season in that Liverpool shirt. But despite all of this, there are people like this guy who believe Salah isn't world class.
But my argument has always been I just don't think he's world class. But again, world class is a different opinion. What I think to world class is, would I want my children to play like that player?
Troy Deeney still doesn't think Mo Salah is world class. And the truth is, there are a couple of people like Deeney who would think the same too. I'm trying to understand why they see it like that. We have to look at the reasons first. Despite being a winger down the right flank, in terms of the typical winger structure and makeup, Mohamed Salah is different. Notice that when Troy Deeney talked about Salah, he compared him to Vinicius Jr., and there's an angle in that. When Vinicius gets the ball down the left, you kind of know what to expect. A skill move, something out of the blue to take on the opposition, the exciting skill move that gets the crowd up on its feet. Some believe that Salah seems to lack that exciting X factor. So how true is this then? Well, quite honestly, it's crap. See guys, it's important to know that there's a difference between a skill move and dribble. A skill move doesn't necessarily translate to getting past an opponent. I mean, you could pull all of that off and still lose the ball. But with Mohamed Salah, we're talking about one of the most efficient dribblers in the Premier League and football at large has ever seen. Since that 2017 period he came to Liverpool to date. This season, Salah's attempted 31 dribbles and completed 16 in that number. This ranks him in both the 87th and 88th percentiles for the respective categories. He doesn't need to pull off a fancy trick before getting past the opposition. Salah's very direct, and that's been a feature of his game ever since he started hitting it big. When he gets the ball, more often than not, the first thing on his mind is to attack. And speaking of minds, here's what's on mine. If you haven't subscribed to Football Historia yet, now's the perfect chance. Just click that button on the channel down below. Coming back to how direct Salah is, and if anything, Troy Deeney's got his statements all messed up. Mohamed Salah has to be the standard for a winger trying to make it in the modern game. It's incredibly ridiculous to be putting up the numbers he's been pulling when considering that he's not an out-and-out centre-forward, a number 9, or doesn't play as the central goal threat. He's continued to improve season after season, but in this current campaign, it seems like we're seeing a different version of Salah than the one we're used to. Under Arne Slot's system, there have been a couple of changes to Salah's game that are making him play like a man possessed, and that's because Slot's determined to get the best out of him.
Well, the abs made in the kitchen, not in the gym first, so you have to really eat well. So it's not about just in the gym, but when you eat well, you burn fats. That's where you start to see the shredder in your body. So the most important thing, I think, food first, then also gym second.
Salah's ripped, shredded to the core. As we mentioned in the clip, he finished top of the chart in Liverpool's annual pre-season lactate test. And just to fill you in on what this lactate test is, it's a test that measures a player's aerobic endurance as they're tasked with increasing distances at full speed. At each checkpoint, a sample of blood is taken from each player's ear to measure lactic acid levels. If it's too high, the player has to drop out. It's a test that aims to see which player can endure running at full speed the longest. And Salah's come out on top of this. It would have been slightly less of a deal if he was still in his mid-20s or even approaching his late 20s. But the guy is 32. Remember what I said about him aging backwards early on? Well, this has to be it. At that age, we become accustomed to players slowing down and losing the speedy features of their game. But in Salah's game, he's only gone and improved it. To play the way Salah does requires a very high level of fitness and endurance. Salah's game under Slot now isn't necessarily about being on the end of chances. He's also added that defensive side to his game. tracking back to help ball recoveries, covering space. Arne Slot saying Salah could play as a right fullback might seem like a joke, but honestly, with his fitness levels and the way he covers to help the team defensively, you wouldn't put it past him. It's one thing to be recognized by fans around the world as a special player, but it's an even better feeling when the pros you're mixing it up with every season see you in the same light as well. That's Salah's reality.
And to talk about Mohamed Salah, is one of the best players in the world. In the sixth finalist in the list of the Global Soccer Awards. He scored a lot of goals for Liverpool. He make the difference. I love to watch him play, so he's a great player.
You've got guys like Kylian Mbappe talking about Salah as being one of the best in the world. And for context, Mbappe is the marquee name in the current generation and is expected to become a future GOAT someday. He talking about Salah like that? Well, it's special.
If you look at his numbers, you'd have to say he is. And you know, when you look at the international team that he's playing for, unfortunately, a little bit like Ian Rush when he was at Wales, hasn't really got the platform to do it at world level with his country.
Perhaps there's a huge degree of truth in what Alan Pardew said. The reason Salah probably still has doubters like Troy Deeney is that while he's performing consistently at club level, on the international scene, he hasn't quite got the platform to do so. This isn't in any way disrespecting the Egyptian national team, but when you compare the successful squads they had in the early 2000s and late 90s that dominated African football, it's not the same now. Even with that, he's second on the list of all-time top scorers for the Egyptian national team. I mean, you really can't hate the guy, he's just that good. We're back to the numbers again, and this season, Salah has been on a tear. In the 11 matches he's played in so far this season, Salah's bagged 8 goals. Add this to the 6 assists he's got, and that's 14 goal contributions in 11 games. The numbers aren't lying. He's proving to be much more than just a goal scorer for Liverpool. He's the club's main goal threat. This season under Slot, there's been an improvement in his numbers too. Out of the 26 shots he's taken in the league, he's managed 20 on target and scored 8 as a result. A conversion rate of 26.92%, ranking him in the 89th percentile in that category this season. I did say he is the club's main goal threat going forward, and the numbers back this up. 19 key passes this season, 17 crosses, and we've already seen highlights of just how dangerous the balls he's playing from out wide can be. It's pinpoint. That's been the theme with Salah over the years. How he managed to find these passes to teammates against any opposition, doesn't matter how they come. I don't think it gets talked about just how well Salah's been performing under Slot this season. For context, the goals per 90 he's got in the league so far, at 0.75 at this stage of the season, is his best since the 2021-22 season, one that happened to be a very special one for him. But the truth is, guys, away from the pitch, the discussions about Salah's future at Liverpool will continue.
Yeah, it's a lot of if, but at this moment he's one of ours, and I'm really, really happy with him being one of ours, and he plays really well. So I don't talk about contracts from players, but I can talk for hours about how Mo played today. But are you interested in that?
He still hasn't signed a contract yet, and at 32 it puts both himself and the club in a pretty tight situation. He's currently Liverpool's highest paid player in the team on a reported £350,000 weekly deal, and by January will have just 6 months left on his contract. If you're Liverpool, it's down to a situation of trying to keep your best player or freeing up the wage budget. And even though it does look hard, the truth is, it isn't supposed to. Fans chanting his name every week, talking about his daughter loving the city and how she's a Scouser now. It only just makes more sense to have him playing at the club while he's still at the peak of his abilities. There will be offers for Salah once the transfer window opens. That's a guarantee. On his part, he's just trying to enjoy his football and make the most of the situation. He isn't fazed about any of it. One thing is for certain though, Mohamed Salah will go down as arguably the greatest winger in Premier League history. Numbers don't lie. He's the highest scoring African in the competition, 8th on the all-time list of goal scorers in the competition, surpassing the likes of Michael Owen, Robin van Persie, and even Liverpool's all-time great Steven Gerrard. Then you factor in that he's doing all this from out wide, a winger and not a centre-forward. All of this in just 7 years? It's unbelievable at times just how good he is. If he stays, then you can expect him to become a possible choice for being one of Liverpool's captains in the future.
I saw this post on Insta, which I wanted to share with you guys from our friends over at SofaScore. Harry Kane at Bayern Munich, 57 goals in 55 games. Robert Lewandowski at 73 and 107. The numbers are insane, Thierry.
Now insane. They're still doing what they're supposed to do at their age. We thought that Lewandowski was maybe on a decline last year, but this year is banging goals again.
At Lewandowski, he is a man who's got goals and won something, and with his goals last time out, he's now put himself, would you believe, third on the all-time goal scoring list.
In the top 5 leagues?
In the top 5 leagues, you're spot on there, Mikey. Well done for helping me out.
The 2024-25 version of Robert Lewandowski isn't normal. It might come as a surprise to the world how well Lewandowski has been playing, but to his coach Hansi Flick, it's normal. Why? It's because of a secret both Hansi Flick and Lewandowski share that's turned this 36-year-old veteran into a beast again. After the 2023-24 season, Lewandowski looked done.
Given away cheaply, Lewandowski should be 2. Let's see Gundogan.
He was missing chances like this he usually scored almost every week. He finished the 2023-24 season with 26 goals in all competitions. And while this might sound decent, well, it isn't. See, this was Lewandowski's lowest return in a season since the 2014-15 season. That's over 10 years ago. 19 league goals too. You get the idea by now, he had a drop-off. We're only just a few games into the season, and right now, he's a different animal.
Foot delivery at will, Rafinha bending it in, and Mr. Golski. Field, Rafinha can go it alone. So simple. To be opened up again here, Lewandowski is on a hat-trick.
A hat-trick versus Alaves. He's already into double digits in league goals this season, and he's been so good he's scoring against anyone, including his former team. Lewandowski's back. The question is though, did he ever leave? What the heck happened to him? And how's he playing differently? Well, it all starts with this guy. Robert Lewandowski and Hansi Flick go back, and share a special bond too. In the 2019-20 season, Robert Lewandowski wasn't just the best striker in the world, he was the best player on the planet. 55 goals and 10 assists in 47 games that season. And the only reason he didn't win the Ballon d'Or was because it somehow got cancelled that year. The point is, in Lewandowski's best career form, Hansi Flick was the head coach, and it was under this guy that Lewandowski hit top gear. Flick gave Lewandowski the freedom to become more than a striker at Bayern. Dropping deep to link play, taking up free positions across the pitch, building his fitness levels and improving his finishing, Lewandowski became a beast. But then Flick left, Lewandowski left, and under Xavi, and in fact it seemed like Barcelona had already taken a proactive decision, because in the January transfer window of 2024, it seemed like they'd already found the Lewandowski replacement to start grooming. Vitor Roque joined the club, and the hype around the kid was that in a couple of years he could become the next big thing at the club. But with the form Lewandowski was in at the time, a couple of years could have turned into a couple of weeks if Roque was good enough. So how's Lewandowski different now? Well, for starters, he's not the same guy. At 36, Lewandowski isn't getting any younger. He's like an oldie in the Barcelona dressing room. But yet, as he said in the interview, his role has changed. Lewandowski now knows there's added responsibility on him not just to score goals, but also to lead the next generation of Barcelona talent, something Hansi Flick believes he can do. Still though, being Barcelona's main man, the talk around him will centre on the goals, and in this aspect, the man is flying. His goal contribution ratio of 1.57 per 90 ranks him in the 99th percentile for goals scored in La Liga. He's got an XG of 1.13 goals per 90. The numbers aren't lying, and the best part is, it gets even better. Looking at this graph here, at this point in the season, it's showing that Lewandowski's current form is only bettered by the start he had to the 2020-21 season, his last one in Germany. 1.34 goal contributions are honestly insane. Lewandowski's enjoying his football. It's safe to say Lewandowski, like the rest of his teammates, has been enjoying the services of Lamine Yamal this season. And it's how Levy has linked up with the forward line that's been so impressive to watch. Hansi Flick's setup offers Lewandowski more freedom because of how dynamic Barcelona is. The front line can interchange positions or become narrow to link up play, and they're finding each other so easily like it's a clockwork routine. No wonder Lewandowski's always shining. With balls like that, he's guaranteed to score goals. See guys, Robert Lewandowski has also become very clever with the positions he takes up and his team play.
Rafinha running through, and he's able to get there, and he's able to...
Cabrassi gets the assist, Rafinha gets the goal for this one, but it was Lewandowski's movement to drop off and allow Rafinha to run into that space that started it. He even signaled with his hand for Rafinha to move into the area and space he just left. Lewandowski is more than just a goal scorer now, he's a complete attacker. You know, it sounds odd saying this, considering that Lewandowski is having to compete in a league with this guy around now. Kylian Mbappe, Real Madrid's summer mega signing, and the guy everyone expected will blow La Liga away. Well, right now it's Lewandowski doing the damage, and it gets even better when you realise that taking his numbers to the rest of Europe, this 36-year-old veteran still ranks up. Compared to Erling Haaland, Lewandowski has more goals than the Norwegian superstar in league competitions, and more assists too. Haaland's goal contributions of 1.25 per 90 is lower than Lewandowski's 1.34. From a numbers perspective, he's flying, passes a stat test, and on the eye test, he's equally been as impressive. Lewandowski covers a lot of ground for Barcelona this season, and for his age that's saying something. From tracking back to pressing, being the end of team moves, it takes a lot of movement and stamina to keep up. And yet, Lewandowski looks like he can match the pace at any time. Everything you give him, he scores. What Lamine Yamal said a few weeks back in an exclusive interview is the truth, no lies detected. His teammates are benefiting from his rediscovered form, and the man himself, he's just as hungry to prove it even further.
I can be proud of myself. Of course, still I have this fire inside that I want more, even that I'm going to be soon 36, but still I'm feeling like few years for sure younger than I am.
I mean, the way he talks about the game like he's a pro who's just starting is honestly impressive. He's still got that same fire and hunger to succeed. And he's also out to prove his critics, who came at him last season, that he's very much capable of continuing to perform at the highest level in the near future. They don't make them like Lewandowski anymore. And speaking of making stuff, Football Historia is cooking a lot of quality videos like this, and the only thing you've got to do is hit that subscribe button to the channel. It might be too early to judge, but so far, Lewandowski's partnership with Rafinha and Lamine Yamal up top kind of reminds us of something. It's like the MSN, except it's 7 years into the future. Lewandowski opens up a bit about his relationship with Rafinha and Lamine Yamal on the pitch, and the connection between the three of them is undeniable. The link-up play is something beautiful to watch. Rafinha is the guy who never stops running, Lamine Yamal is the clever dribbler with the ball at his feet, and Lewandowski's intelligent runs and interplay combine to make a deadly front three in the game at the moment. In fact, they're the most informed trio in world football. See guys, after what happened to him last season, a lot of people would have sailed ship and said goodbye, because the truth is, Lewandowski playing for Barcelona is a decision he took out of his love for the club more than anything else. A lot went down between Lewandowski and Barcelona in getting the Polish striker to join the club, and when the economic crisis hit hard, Lewandowski was even reported to have offered to loan. Incredible start to the season is actually normal. It's just what he does. Lewandowski has always had good starts to seasons, but it's how he maintains them that matters. And in this regard, you can expect him to do well because the club is out to help him. With Hansi Flick's appointment, this guy also came in. Julio Touz, a fitness instructor, and he's just as important to Lewandowski's impressive displays to the team as anyone else has been this season. Lewandowski, like the rest of the team, looks fitter. Last season, Barcelona had a general problem when it came to conceding goals. After the 75th minute mark, they kind of switched off and players became tired. This season, however, everyone looks a lot sharper and ready to go. Lewandowski had benefited from Touz in the past. In that incredible season at Bayern, he transformed himself into a fit machine, banging goals from all angles. Add this to his wife Anna Lewandowski, who's also a fitness instructor, and it's simple. A happy Lewandowski means a fit Lewandowski, and a fit Lewandowski, in turn, translates into a problem for the rest of Europe. It really is, because this season, Lewandowski is all out to break records. This brace against Sevilla had him at 366 goals in the top European leagues, and for context, It meant that he's now just behind Cristiano Ronaldo at 495 goals and Lionel Messi at 496. When you realise that the two guys ahead of him aren't in Europe anymore, his longevity becomes insane. Lewandowski looks fitter and sharper, and he's picking up dangerous positions in games. And he didn't get any better than his new teammates' demolishing of his old teammates.
Levi, wir kommen. Hier, schaut schon mal, ey. Osterhase, mach mal deinen Hut runter. Ja, und jetzt. Hi.
I can't even lie, I laughed hard when Thomas Müller dropped this one, just like the rest of the world did. Everyone thought it was going to be business as usual for Bayern coming to the Nou Camp and doing their business over Levy and his teammates. This time though, Thomas Müller and Bayern were in for a surprise. Rafinha got the hat-trick and most of the talking points, but as we touched on earlier, they won 4-1, and Barcelona's other goal scorer on the night was Lewandowski. In the same game, he could have also added a second late on. Drop this one to highlight his movement. Lewandowski has been excellent so far in the 2024-25 season. And now guys, it's time to reveal the secret Lewandowski and Flick have that's turned the Polish striker into a beast again. See, some players just need a manager who trusts them, believes in what they do. And to Lewandowski, Hansi Flick is that guy.
Das natürlich, ich sag mal, vom Tor eher enorme Gefahr ausstrahlt. Ja, das ist nicht nur seit dieser Saison bekannt, also er ist einfach für mich der weltbeste Mittelstürmer und deswegen bin ich einfach mal gespannt, wie es jetzt auch weitergeht und hoffe natürlich, dass er auch im Spiel gegen Paris trifft.
He's believed in him ever since the Bayern days, and now at Barcelona, Flick is using the same method to get the best out of Lewandowski. The secret is the team. And score. No. In positioning to find space in the opposition half and get his chances away. He knows this. Hansi Flick knows this. And that's why Flick knows to get the best out of Lewandowski. He has got to get the team to perform. Lewandowski came under heavy criticism last season because the team wasn't doing enough in terms of scoring goals. Even with that, he was still the club's top scorer in all competitions with 26. The point is, Barcelona under Xavi relied a lot on Lewandowski for the goals, and the opposition knew this too. They became so predictable that everyone knew what they were going to do when it came to scoring goals. Try to find Lewandowski. In turn, it became a lot easier to cancel Lewandowski from a game, and like that, the Polish striker dropped. Lewandowski became a frustrated figure in matches, and this is what led to the news of him potentially leaving the club in the summer. Rafinha's hat-trick against Bayern Munich was his second of the season already. The Brazilian is scoring goals, and Lamine Yamal can score goals too, as we've seen. From the midfield, players like Dani Olmo also chip in their fair share of goals too. Barcelona now has players across the pitch who can add to the goal count and take the pressure off Lewandowski. The team is playing better, they're creating more chances and feeding off of that. Lewandowski is bound to score goals. It isn't rocket science, it's just that easy. He's now a leader in Barcelona's dressing room, still captain of Poland, and even though there's still a long way to go in the season, Lewandowski has already shown so far what he's capable of. His back must hurt from the games he's played this season because he's been carrying the biggest team in the world so far, Real Madrid. But when it gets down to it, just how good is Vinicius Jr. really? If the current season were to end now, you wouldn't put it past Vinny to be crowned as the best player in the world. Hat-trick in the Champions League against Borussia Dortmund in a comeback 5-2 win. Another hat-trick versus Osasuna. Key performances along the way. Everything good that's happened to Los Blancos this season, he's played a key role in that. And he's got the world noticing too.
I think the Vinicius Junior, he was unstoppable. It doesn't matter if he played on the left side, in the middle, every single time he was on the ball, he was always a threat, and well, he capitalized the chances that he had. He could have even scored.
The hat-trick against Osasuna couldn't have come at a better time for both Vinicius and Real Madrid, off the back of some pretty poor results in La Liga and the Champions League. It was a much-needed response, and in particular, Vinny seemed to be up for the challenge. So what makes Vinicius Jr. so good then? Well, the guy who gave him his debut back in 2018 already helped predict the future.
Para mí lo de Vinicius es sencillo, es tiempo y juego, ¿no? Tiempo porque tiene todo el tiempo por delante, tiene apenas 18 años. y por supuesto que el oficio y la experiencia van haciendo a los futbolistas.
It's crazy to think how he's arguably the best left winger in the world now, but at the time he was an 18-year-old getting stick for being unable to finish chances. However, in the modern game, Vini is the perfect winger. He's combining dribbling and skill moves with goals and assists. He's already got more goal contributions for Madrid with 19 this season than games played. Bagged against the likes of Celta Vigo, Villarreal, Real Sociedad, Espanyol and UD Las Palmas. In the Madrid derby this season, when he wasn't scoring, he was setting up his Brazilian teammate for the equaliser. These are the goals. When it comes to dribbling, Vinicius Jr. has equally been as impressive. You get the idea by now. Vinicius Jr. has, to a very large extent, been Real Madrid's most important player this season.
Sí, muy bien. Estoy muy feliz hoy con el mejor jugador del mundo.
Or, as Jude Bellingham crazily puts it in Spanish, the best player in the world. Still, coming back to what Santiago Solari said, and there's something about Vini that can't be taught, and that's his ability to keep going over and over again. For every time he fails to execute a skill move, I expect him to come back with the same trick harder. Operating mostly down the left side of Madrid's attack, Vini is the one with the flair, beating defenders regularly, and he'd done it against anyone too, from completely isolating Ronald Araujo here, to Julian Riverson in the Champions League, and that's another feature of his game. 2024 goals in back-to-back Champions League finals for Real Madrid. He's still only 24 and has already bagged a hat-trick against Barcelona in El Clasico, goals against city rivals Atletico Madrid, against Bayern, Liverpool, Manchester City. His list is endless. Vinicius Jr. is a guy who lives for the big games. The numbers don't lie too. When it comes to dribbling, Vinicius Jr. is a god. The 60 dribbles he's completed in Liga this season rank him in the 99th percentile for the most dribbles completed in the league. 24 of these 60 have been successful, ranking him in the 96th percentile as well. I could drop even more stats, but for a guy in his position and the way he plays, it's not always about the numbers. Sometimes it's the eye test, or as Karim Benzema puts it, the guy who has made him go oof more than 1,000 times. It'll be impossible to talk about Vini right now without mentioning the saga that captured the world's attention a few weeks back. Given the season he'd had in the 2023-24 campaign, for months, Vini seemed to be the outright contender for the Ballon d'Or. In fact, he was still in pole position for the award a few days before news broke out that he wasn't going to win it, and in the end, the award went to Rodri. Did Vinicius Jr. deserve the Ballon d'Or? Well, given the 2023-24 season he had, it was more about the performances than the numbers. 24 goals and 11 assists in 39 games. They don't exactly scream Ballon d'Or numbers. But performances against the likes of Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund and Barcelona that season helped him get into the conversation.
We wanted to talk about the Ballon d'Or. Don't worry, I won't go to Craig or Frank first on this because I know how it is when it comes to you guys with the Ballon d'Or. A report's out that shows the margin of Rodri's win over Vini in the Ballon d'Or, and the point difference is just 41.
The topic surrounding Vinicius and the Ballon d'Or still draws a lot of debate, and rightly so. On his part though, Vinicius Jr. became even more determined to perform better than he did last season. As he said, he'll do it 10 times more if he has to, which brings us back to the present day. Just how good has the guy been this season? We've seen him in light of someone first. When Real Madrid made this signing back in the summer, it was always going to be a case of seeing how these two would eventually play. They both primarily played down the same position, and credit to Vinicius Jr., he'd now become so good that even despite the hype around Mbappe's signing, Carlo Ancelotti was already stating that he'd have to find a way to fit Mbappe into the team because Vinicius was a mainstay. So far this season, it's once again safe to say Vinicius Jr. has been Real Madrid's most important player, and that's saying a lot considering that they've now got Mbappe in that team. Where the French national team captain has struggled, Vinicius Jr. has been flying. Heck, he's even given up taking penalties twice just for Mbappe to get on the score sheet. Around the conversation of Vinicius and Mbappe, the Brazilian has so far been on top this season. From the comeback win against Dortmund to wins against Osasuna, everything good the club has produced so far this campaign has centered around it. Mbappe, not so much. Were we really expecting a positional shift with Vini when Mbappe arrived? Well, it was always going to be interesting to see where Ancelotti would have wanted to play Mbappe in this Madrid team. and so far it's been down the middle. There is the argument that playing Mbappe in that natural left-wing position could help get the best out of him. But with the form Vinicius Jr. has been in, it's safe to say Ancelotti would rather just let it flow naturally at the moment. We've talked about the goals, but just looking at them, it says something about the player. Vinicius Jr. has never been a natural goalscorer. Rather, he's evolved into a guy who now steadily bags at least 20 goals in all competitions. He's done this for the last 3 seasons in a row. And that says a lot. You look at the types of goals he scores, like this one against Osasuna, or the solo stunner versus Dortmund. That's the type of player he is. You don't necessarily associate him with tap-ins, rather it's with spectacular or incredible goals like this. Now imagine a guy who's pulling off near-level type of goals every week. Honestly, Vinicius Jr. has been on another level for the last 3 seasons. His evolution kicked off when Don Carlo came to the club. Under Zidane, Vinny looked done. Before Mbappe arrived this summer, it could have all been very different 3 years back, and I'll tell you how in a minute. But first, you see that subscribe button to Football Historia? Click it if you haven't yet to get exclusive updates about the channel. Back to Vinny and Zidane, and under the Frenchman, Zidane made it clear who his preferred option was. But from the moment Carlo Ancelotti came into the club, Vinicius evolved. That season in 2021-22, 22 goals and 20 assists in 52 games that season. 2022-23, 23 goals and 21 assists in 51 games. 24 and 11 in 39 last season. Over the 20-goal mark in the last 3 seasons, with Karim Benzema gone, he's been Madrid's most decisive player. Just going back to the whole Ballon d'Or saga again and looking closely at it, it kind of shows the possible downside to Vinny's game. Even when the rumours came out, apart from Rodri winning the Euros with Spain, there were also reports that stuff like this denied Vinny from winning the Ballon d'Or, and in truth, he does tend to get involved in situations like these a lot. Some of them have been for proper causes, like his fight against racism, but oftentimes getting involved in touchline spats with opposition managers, needless fights, unnecessary drama, general unsportsmanlike behaviour, and it seems like it cost him the Ballon d'Or, or this year as well. UEFA reportedly don't want him to win it on these grounds. Sadly too, it seems like we see a different Vinicius playing for Real Madrid than the one that plays for Brazil. With Real Madrid he plays with so much freedom and expression, capable of these magical moments, as Karim Benzema said, that make you go wow, off the edge of your seat stuff. With Brazil, however, Vinicius seems to be a shadow of what he's producing in the Spanish capital. Watching Vinicius in the Copa America, while he did manage to get 2 in the game versus Paraguay. Other than that, he was largely disappointing, as has been the theme so far in his national team career with Brazil. This particular Copa America campaign should have been the one, because Brazil came into this one with Neymar, and all eyes were on who was going to step up and become the new star of the national team, and the odds were on Vinicius and the season he had. It ultimately affected his chance of winning the Ballon d'Or. Rodri had a more than decent season with Manchester City, but winning the Euros with Spain and the Player of the Competition award as well, it flipped the switch. I can't help but feel that if Vinny had performed anywhere near what Rodri did at the Euros, it could have been different. Ultimately, that's what Vinny is up against. With the current form he's shown this season and the last couple of years for Madrid, Vinicius Jr. has no doubt been amongst the world's best at club level. But his form for Brazil makes it kind of difficult to rank him at the very top. Think about the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi and Neymar. All these guys didn't just perform for their respective club sides, they did it in their national team jerseys too. And that's what Vinny's up against in trying to become the absolute best of the current generation. With all of this though, he's still that guy in the modern game. If there's one thing about Vinicius Jr. that always gets a crowd up, it's how decisive he is. In the Champions League knockout stages last season, no one had more goals and assists than Vinny's 6 in total. He lives for the big games. I mean, yeah, Real Madrid did lose 4-0 to Barcelona this season, and that 3-1 loss to AC Milan. But in both games, despite the team playing badly, if you could pick a standout from the Madrid team, it would have been Vinicius. Right now, he's the poster guy for everything good happening at the club. If you're a fullback coming up against him, you know it's over. How do you defend against a player like Vinicius? You don't. You just hope and pray he's having an off day, else it's over. Other than Kyle Walker, who he has indeed managed to get past, there isn't a fullback Vinicius has come up against. He hasn't managed to get the better of. And just look at him again. It's safe to say he's the answer to what the club's been searching for years. It's like Real Madrid's version of Barcelona's Neymar, only this time he wears white. Ranking the two of them in the same category would be too much now, considering everything Neymar has achieved in his career, but they're on the same trajectory. It's important to note that Vinicius is still only 24. He's playing like this and he hasn't hit what we can consider his prime yet, meaning there's more to come. Over the summer, rumours of a multi-million bid for Vinicius emerged that showed just how far the player had come. $560 million, a reported salary of over $1 billion. If he decided to leave Real Madrid last summer, which would have been very unlikely, that's how much he could have been going home with. It's mind-blowing just thinking about it alone. Vinicius Jr. will only get better as the seasons improve, and that's saying something. In Carlo Ancelotti, Vinicius has a man who believes in him, and that, guys, is probably the biggest reason why he's become the player he is today. Could very well say he played for Brazil the same way he did for Madrid in those early years. The reason being, he played under two coaches who didn't exactly believe in his abilities, or didn't put as much faith in him. With Don Carlo, it's about protecting Vinny. Remembering that incident when Vinny almost started a fight with the Barcelona section of the fans in El Clasico, and that's what the relationship between the two is like. Ancelotti trusts Vinicius, wants him to focus on the football, and tries to protect him as much as possible. He won the Coach of the Year award at the Ballon d'Or, but with the rest of the team didn't attend. Why? Because they believe Vinicius not winning the award was an injustice. He could very well become the face of the club for years to come. The talk has been around Mbappe since he's arrived, but ever since the dust settled, Vinny has been the one with the big performances this season, and he doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon. It's all testament to the fact that he's come a long way, from a guy who once was even hated by his teammates, to becoming the guy that was 41 votes off being voted as the best player on the planet. Vinicius Jr. is a star in the making. Amad Diallo isn't just a rising star in the Premier League, he's a potential game changer. But what magic did Amorim weave to unlock his brilliance? And what does Amad need to reach the legendary levels of players like Messi or Mata? Watch to the end to find out. This is why the Premier League should fear Amad Diallo under Amorim. You know how some young players get tagged with that label, the next Messi? Yeah, it's almost like a blessing and a curse rolled into one. Everyone starts expecting magic every time you touch the ball, and for Amad, that hype wasn't just talk. I mean, the kid had everything. The silky dribbles, the close control, the vision to pick out a pass nobody else saw. People were losing it over him before he even set foot in England. But let's be real, living up to that kind of expectation? That's no walk in the park. Amad came to Manchester United with all eyes on him, and yeah, he showed flashes. Do you remember that Europa League goal against AC Milan? Chef's kiss, pure class. And before all the Manchester United hype, Amad was already turning heads at Atalanta. And I mean, seriously turning heads. He made his debut at just 17, and guess what? He scored within 10 minutes of coming on. You had 10 minutes. That's how you announce yourself to the world. Even with limited minutes in Serie A, you could tell this kid was something special. His dribbling? Unreal. His composure on the ball? Way beyond his years. Atalanta's fans were raving about him. And it wasn't just hype, they knew they had a gem. It's no wonder United splashed the cash to get him. Atalanta gave us a glimpse, but everyone knew Amad had much more to offer. And now, the Premier League is starting to see what all the fuss was about. After moving to Manchester United, things didn't exactly go as planned for Amad at United. Like, we all saw the potential, but it felt like he just wasn't getting the minutes to prove himself. And honestly, that's the story for so many young players, right? You're stuck waiting for your momentum. When it comes, you've got maybe 10 minutes to make everyone remember your name. But even with limited chances, Amad did deliver some jaw-dropping moments. Like that game against AC Milan. How many players even think about trying that cheeky header, let alone pulling it off? He made it look so effortless. And then there were those little flashes, a slick dribble here, a perfectly weighted pass there. You could tell this kid wasn't just talented, he was special. Still, consistency is king, and that's where things got tricky. He had a decent run for a bit, but then, boom, back to the bench. It was frustrating to watch because you knew he had so much more to give. It wasn't like he was making big mistakes. It just seemed like the system or the situation wasn't working in his favor. When Amad wasn't playing, you couldn't help but wonder, is this kid going to end up as one of those what could have been stories? But then came the turning point. United decided to send him out on loan. And let me tell you, that's where things got interesting. At first he was taken to Rangers, but then he was later moved to Sunderland. and it turned out to be the perfect stage for Amad to shine. From the moment he stepped on the pitch, you could tell he was on a different level. The way he glided past defenders like they weren't even there, the confidence to take shots from anywhere, and the sheer creativity in his play. It was like watching someone on a playground, just having fun, and the stats backed it up. He racked up 14 goals and 4 assists in all competitions that season. For a winger in the championship, that's ridiculous. He wasn't just scoring tap-ins either, we're talking screamers, curlers, and those "did he just do that" moments. But what stood out the most wasn't just his flair, it was his work ethic. He didn't just stay out wide waiting for the ball, he tracked back, fought for possession, and showed he was willing to grind it out. Sunderland fans fell in love with him, and honestly, who could blame them? By the end of the season, he wasn't just their player of the season, he was one of the most talked about young players in the league, and suddenly United fans started dreaming again. Is this it? Is Amad finally ready to take the Premier League by storm? So after tearing it up at Sunderland, Amad returned to Manchester United and the hype was real. I mean, we were all thinking, finally this is his time. Especially with Antony struggling to find consistency on the right wing. It felt like the stars had aligned for Amad to step in and make that spot his own. But guess what? That didn't happen. Instead, we got one of the most frustrating seasons as a fan. Sometimes Garnacho was shifted to the right wing, and other times Antony was back in the lineup, despite not exactly setting the world on fire. And Amad, well, back to warming the bench. At this point, United fans were scratching their heads. Like, why? Why wasn't this kid who had just smashed it in the championship getting a shot? It wasn't just us either. Pundits were saying it too. Amad had the talent, the form, and the momentum. So what was the deal? Well, then came the twist. When Ten Hag left the club and Ruud van Nistelrooy stepped in as acting coach. And for a brief moment, it felt like we were finally going to see Amad in action. And to be fair, Ruud did give him some minutes. It wasn't perfect, but he was electric. You could see the spark, the creativity, the hunger. But it wasn't until Ruben Amorim took over that things got interesting. And trust me, Amorim's approach to Amad, it's a game changer. But we'll get into that next, because the way Amad was used under Amorim will make you question everything about how he's been handled before. But before we get into that, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. This would really help us. Thank you, and now back to the video. When Amorim came in, he didn't just rip up the playbook. He built on what Ruud van Nistelrooy had started. At first, Amorim kept things simple. He stuck with Ruud's approach, easing Amad into games, but you could tell he had a bigger plan. Slowly he started experimenting, and that's when things got wild. Amad went from playing wing-back, a role you'd never expect for a player like him, to thriving as an inside forward, and guess what? He nailed it. He didn't just change Amad's position, he unlocked new dimensions in his game. As a wing-back, Amad learned the discipline of tracking back, the endurance to cover ground, and the vision to read the game from deeper positions. When Amorim shifted him to an inside forward, all those skills came together in the most dangerous way possible. Now, Amad is almost a complete package. He's got the creativity to thread impossible passes, the work rate to press relentlessly, and the ability to finish like a seasoned striker. Amorim's tactical tweaks turned Amad from a talented winger into a versatile weapon. He's no longer just a spark on the pitch, he's a player who can dictate the game in multiple roles. This reinvention didn't just elevate Amad, it gave Manchester United a new kind of threat. And honestly, it's scary to think how much better he can still get under Amorim's guidance. But what really led to Amad's improvement this season? In this season, Amad Diallo has taken his game to new heights, showing why he's quickly becoming one of Manchester United's most exciting players. There's no denying that his improvements in key areas, such as his positioning, creativity in attack, and consistency, have had a significant impact on the Red Devils. Firstly, Amad's role has evolved, with a more advanced positioning that allows him to influence the game in the final third. Despite being one of the smallest players in the team, standing at just 5'8", Amad has proven to be a fighter. Whether it's holding off defenders or tracking back to contribute defensively, his work ethic stands out. This was visible in his recent match against Everton, where Amad won an impressive 12 out of 17 duels, making him the most successful player. One of the major aspects of this improvement has been his creativity in attack. Amad has shown an incredible flair for not only retaining possession, but also making decisive passes and creating chances. His dribbling skills have been a standout feature, as he's able to glide past defenders with ease, like when he took on Everton fullback and created a chance that nearly led to a goal. His ability to operate in tight spaces and still find a way to break through opposition lines adds a layer of unpredictability to United's attack. A standout moment came against Manchester City, where Amad's improved vision and movement off the ball were on full display. Whether linking up with teammates or making those key runs into the box, he created opportunities that showcased his growing confidence. His close control and agility in situations where others might rely on pace make him an even more dangerous player. He's not simply a winger relying on speed. Amad's technical ability allows him to operate in multiple roles across the attacking line. What truly sets Amad apart this season is his consistency. While many young players can have bursts of brilliance, followed by lapses in form, Amad has maintained a high level of performance in nearly every game he's played. His adaptability, whether as a winger or in a more central role, speaks to his growth as a player under Erik ten Hag's system. He's not just making an impact in one-off games, he's providing consistent contributions week in and week out, something that was evident in his performances against both Everton and Manchester City. Amad's development this season is the result of his growing maturity, tactical awareness, and his ability to deliver in big moments. He's proving that he's not only a talented young player, but one that Manchester United can rely on for years to come. If he continues on this trajectory, there's no limit to how far he can go in his career. But for him to really go far, there are things that he needs to really improve on. First is decision-making under pressure. Look, the Premier League isn't like any other competition. It's fast, it's intense, and the pressure is always on. Amad has shown flashes of brilliance, but sometimes he tends to hesitate or overthink in key moments. That split-second decision, whether to take the shot, play the pass, or hold up the ball, can make all the difference. He needs to trust his instincts more and become a quicker thinker when it counts. Next, leadership. Think of a player like Juan Mata, quiet but so influential. Amad could take a page out of Mata's book when it comes to leadership. Mata wasn't the loudest guy in the room, but he led by example, working hard, staying calm, and making others around him better. Amad's still young, but with time, he needs to develop that calm, mature presence on the pitch. Even if he's not shouting at his teammates, this play can speak volumes. And then the physical side of things. We all know how rough the Premier League can be, and Amad's not the biggest guy out there. He's got the skill and the flair, but to thrive in the Premier League's intense, physical games, he's gonna need to build more muscle. We've seen players like Eden Hazard, who were once light and agile, but bulked up to handle the physicality. It's all about striking that balance. Maintaining his speed and agility, but getting stronger to hold his own against the big guys. It's not about changing his style, it's about making sure he's ready for the challenges that come with being a top Premier League player. But honestly, if he keeps working on those areas, we could be talking about him as one of the league's best in a few years, and this is why the Premier League should fear him now. Look, Amad is still young, and that means the best is yet to come. His potential is off the charts, and if he keeps improving, he's going to be a nightmare for defenders. You can already see it when he gets on the ball. His quick feet, his ability to twist and turn, leaving defenders in the dust. But what stands out is that he has the mind for it too. He's got that football IQ that makes you think, okay, this kid's got the brain to match the flair. Now imagine a fully developed Amad with all his areas polished: decision-making, leadership, physical strength. Suddenly, we're talking about a player who's not just a threat on the wing, but someone who can change the course of a game in a heartbeat. He'll be taking on defenders, creating chances, scoring goals, and dragging teams apart with his skill and vision. And don't forget that leadership quality, that'll be huge too. A player who's not only creating magic, but also lifting the whole team when it matters. That's the kind of guy every Premier League team dreads facing. So yeah, defenders, take note. This kid's gonna be the one causing nightmares for you in a few years. And honestly, the sooner he reaches that peak, the sooner the Premier League is going to have to deal with him as one of the most dangerous players in the league. But what do you think? Can he become the next big thing in the Premier League? Well, let me know in the comments. And when you're done, watch this video on which players Amorim would chase at Manchester United.